Clap your hands in joy. Celebrate this day. Clap your hands in joy. Celebrate this day. This day, this day. Celebrate this day. This day, this day. Celebrate this day. Make a joyful noise. Hey, hey. Celebrate this day. Make a joyful noise. Celebrate this day. This day, this day. Celebrate this day. This day, this day. Celebrate this day. Clap your hands in joy. Celebrate this day. Clap your hands in joy. Celebrate this day. This day, this day. Celebrate this day. This day, this day. Celebrate this day. Make a joyful noise. Celebrate this day. Make a joyful noise. Celebrate this day. This day, this day. Celebrate this day. This day, this day. Celebrate this day.
Well, good morning, everybody. And welcome to autumn. We won't call it fall because we have no leaves that are falling yet. You know, this is an interesting time of the year. About a month ago, we started getting the large bats. We have 2 hummingbird feeders that we have out, and if we don't take them out at night, these bats, which look very much like these here, they're this big. You can stand a foot away from the hummingbird feeder, and you can. I tried to videotape it, but they're too fast. So, a wonderful time. They miss me, thank God. And I miss them too when they're gone. So, my name is Donald Green, and on behalf of Reverend Donna Maurer and our Board of Trustees, it's my distinct pleasure. I welcome you here today through the Sonoran Desert Center for Spiritual Living. Wherever you are and wherever you are in your spiritual path, here you'll be welcomed, you'll be validated and supported to be all that you were meant to be. Our vision statement is love in action, every day and every way. And we express this by living the principles, the Declaration of Principles. If you look on the back of your bulletin, you'll see them. And if you join me in reading them, I believe there's an infinite intelligence operating throughout the universe. I believe this intelligence is only good. I believe this intelligence expresses as me, and I believe through my conscious use of this power, I create my life as happy, healthy, and complete. And so it is. If this is your first time here, we especially welcome you. I know we have 2 guests here today for the first time. Nico, back here, and Will. Let's give them a big hand. Is there anyone here that's here for the first time, other than the 2 gentlemen? No? Okay. Well, we hope that you'll stay around and get to know us a little bit better and get us a chance to know you a little bit better. We have some refreshments in the back today and coffee and a nice time to socialize. We want to thank those who helped make our celebration today what it is, starting out with our greeter, which was Craig. Thank you, Craig. Let's give him a hand. And Susan, who took care of the coffee and refreshments. Thank you, Susan. Gray, our video personnel. Heather, our music director. Our practitioner, John. And, of course, our Reverend Donna Maurer. And all of you for attending. You know, I think it was Albert Einstein said something like, there's 2 ways of living life. One is as if nothing's a miracle, and the other one is as if everything's a miracle. It's a miracle to me every time I come to this place. Some of my favorite people in the world are right here. And that's you. So,
And thank you to you, Don Green.
thank you. So, the announcements are inside of the bulletin on the right side, and you can see that we have some special events. If you would have your cell phones or whatever devices you have silenced, we would deeply appreciate that. Thank you very much.
The God in me beholds the God in you. It is all for our greatest and highest good. The God in me beholds the God in you. And you and I are one. Namaste. The God in me beholds the God in you. It is all for our greatest and highest good. The God in me beholds the God in you, and you and I are one. Namaste. Namaste.
Good morning. I'm John. And I am your practitioner for the day. And so I'd like to light our service candle. And in this light, I invite you to join me in our opening invocation. I know, declare, and affirm that God is all there is, right here, present, here and now, filling all space. It fills this sanctuary and expresses in, through, and as each one of us here this morning. And as it does so, I know that our service today is already perfect, whole, and complete, as it expresses through the beautiful music by Heather and through the words of wisdom of Reverend Donna. I'm so grateful for this truth. I know that this service is already a done deal, and I'd like to anchor these words by saying together, and so it is. Okay. My reading this morning is about faith, because one of the themes that Donna's going to be talking about today are the five pillars of faith. Is that it? There's 5 pillars of faith. So I thought that a reading about faith and the new thought spin on faith would be appropriate. So the first part of my reading is by Noel McInnes. The faith of God is very different from the faith in God. The faith of God is God. We need to cease having a faith in and have the faith of. Always in such degree as this happens, a demonstration takes place. We must believe because God is belief. The physical universe is built out of belief. Faith, belief, acceptance, conviction. It takes far less application of one's consciousness to experience faith in God than is required for experiencing the faith of God. For while experiencing in God requires merely our belief that God does things to and for us, experience the faith of God necessitates an awakening to our innermost knowing that God is inherently and perpetually expressing through and as us. Yet as difficult as it may seem to truly embody the faith of God, it nonetheless stands to reason that if we are indeed created in the images and likeness of God, as Scripture proclaims, then being fully godlike includes our embodiment of godlike faith. And then this is what Eric Butterworth, from his book Spiritual Economics, a book that I've read about 500 times, has to say about faith. Faith doesn't influence God out there. Faith is the spiritual capacity by which we may form and shape this ever-present basic element of spirit substance. You with me? Faith simply tunes into and turns on the divine flow that has always been present. Faith is not a vague process of believing in something. It is rather a positive act of turning on something. The power is already within you, for you are the power being projected into visibility as you. Saying that you have faith in something, even faith in God out there, suggests reaching and supplicating. We don't do that here. The ideal is not believing in, but believing from. You begin with the assumption of the presence in which you live and have your being. Your faith is an activity that goes forth from this base. Faith doesn't really change things at all. It challenges the way you relate to them. There is an all-sufficiency even within the insufficiency. Your faith can relate to the whole or the partial, and it will be as you believe. Faith is expectancy. You do not receive what you want. You do not receive what you pray for, not even what you say you have faith in. You will always receive what you actually expect. Faith is your consent. It is saying yes to the outforming of the creative process. Even as the flick of a switch turns on the light by the very reason of the law of electricity, So your faith releases your success power by reason of the law of spirit within you. I establish myself in the limitless substance of God, and I have abundance. These words do not come true because you affirm them. You affirm them because they are true. You are synchronizing your consciousness with the reality of truth, creating a channel through which the mystical flow may do its powerful work through you. Thank you, and namaste. So the practitioners here are the healing arm of this center. And if you have anything going on that you would like treatment for, please fill out a card over on the table and put it in the box. And our team of awesome practitioners will be praying for you all this week. Thank you again.
You know, I looked in my closet this morning and I almost picked the orange and gold top. But that's all right. If I stand in the middle, in between you two, we can get a nice picture and we'll look like the autumnal leaves, you know. All the changing colors. Oh, I'm sorry. You know, I know we live in a place that's pretty verdant and, you know, most of the year and pretty dry for the rest of it, but I'd still love going up to the mountains and taking a look at all the colors changing. It's just awesome, awesome. And that's one of the ways that I feel like I'm surrounded by spirit, infused with it, imbued. And there's a song off of my own album that talks about that very thing that I thought would be absolutely perfect for today, because it talks about, I am the force, joy is my source. I am willing and worthy to do all that I can be and be all that I can be. I am the expression of creation on earth, right? And that's the message that I want to get out to all of you today with the song. I am so lucky, and I'm loved. And if you'll allow me, I'm going to sing to myself.
surrounded by the love of Spirit.
Spirit. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you. I like that song a lot, by the way. Good morning. I want to tell you that tomorrow and Tuesday is the Shiite religious observance of Arba'in, and it commemorates the martyrdom of the grandson of Muhammad. And normally, this pilgrimage, and we're going to sing "Come, Come, Wherever You Are" after the talk, so I thought that would go in with the idea of a pilgrimage. Normally, this pilgrimage brings about 20 million people into the city of Karbala in Iraq. But this year, because of COVID, the Iraqi government will allow only 40,000 foreigners into the country. But this has gone on for years, and it has always been the largest peaceful pilgrimage in the world. So I thought that was kind of a neat introduction as we finish our theme, Celebrate This Day, with our topic, the Pillars of Faith, which introduces us to the Islam faith. Today, what we read and see in the news about Taliban might lead us to believe that Islam is another term for terrorism, and that is so far from the truth. I asked John this morning if he knew when the Taliban began. It began in 1994. Not 600 AD. According to an article from the BBC, the Taliban, or students of the Pashto language, emerged in the early 1990s in northern Pakistan following the withdrawal of Soviet troops from Afghanistan. It's believed that the predominantly Pashtun movement first appeared in religious seminaries, mostly paid for by money from Saudi Arabia, which preached a hardline form of Sunni Islam. The promise made by the Taliban in the areas straddling Pakistan and Afghanistan was to restore peace and security and enforce their own austere version of Sharia or Islamic law once they were in power. So Afghans, weary of the infighting after the Soviets were driven out, generally welcomed the Taliban. That made me understand how fast the government fell and the Taliban took over. Their early popularity was largely due to their success in stamping out corruption, curbing lawlessness, and making the roads in the areas under their control safe for commerce to flourish. But the Taliban, of course, also introduced or supported punishments in line with their strict interpretation of Sharia law, such as public executions of convicted murderers and adulterers, amputations for those found guilty of theft. Men were required to grow beards, and women had to wear the all-covering burqa. The Taliban also banned television, music, and cinema, disapproved of girls aged 10 and over to go to school, and were accused of various human rights and cultural abuses. I wanted to start out with that bit of background simply to show you that the Taliban is not Islam. It's not worshipped by the Muslim people. It isn't. It has nothing to do with the revelations of Muhammad that occurred some 600 plus years after Jesus. And to say that the Taliban represents the Islam faith is kind of like saying that the Inquisition represents Christianity. So, that's how we begin. Christianity, Islam, and Judaism are known as the Abrahamic religions because of their common origins through Abraham. Muslims consider Ishmael, the firstborn son of Abraham, to be the father of the Arabs, to be the father of Islam, the father of the Muslims. And Abraham's second son, Isaac, to be the father of the Hebrews, and that's where we come in our Judaic and Christian philosophies. The Islam faith honors Abraham, Moses, and Jesus as prophets. They deeply respect Mary, the mother of Jesus. And the biggest rift, I found this fascinating, the biggest rift in the basic beliefs of Christianity and Islam is the Christian belief that Jesus is the one divine Son of God and is part of the Trinity of the Father, the Son, and Holy Spirit. The Muslims believe that God is monotheistic, not a Trinity. They do believe that Jesus was one of the great prophets and that Muhammad was the last of this line of great prophets, but that none of the prophets were the only divine expression of God. So if you and I think of it in our teaching, our biggest rift with Christianity is exactly the same thing. Our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, called Jesus the great wayshower, the great example. He said Jesus was either the great exception or the great example. If he were the great exception, there is little we can do other than admire the spiritual altitude from which he spoke. If he were the great example, we should follow his teaching and seek to make it practical in our everyday living. He chose to think of himself as the great example, saying that what he did, we too can do if we follow the same principle, if we believe in God, and if we have faith. Both Muhammad and Jesus had revelations and struggled with those revelations. According to our own scripture, Satan's temptations of Jesus were hedonism, egoism, and materialism. Satan tempts Jesus to create bread out of stones to relieve his own hunger, to leap from a pinnacle and rely on angels to break his fall, and to kneel before Satan in return for all the kingdoms of the world. So I believe that this was Jesus' struggle within himself, so that when he began his ministry, he would be compelled to put his faith in God and would not be tempted by material power. When Muhammad had revelations, he was frightened. He felt like he was going crazy. He began to doubt himself, everything he had ever known, and even contemplated suicide as a way to stop the visions. So Jesus and Muhammad stood in awe of what they were seeing and understanding, and they were both humbled and transformed by the tremendous responsibility that was put before them, and both men struggled with doubt. In the Doubt Essential to Faith, a TED Talk given in 2013, Leslie Hazelton says, "As I read those early accounts, I realized it was precisely Muhammad's doubt that brought him alive for me, that allowed me to begin to see him in full, to accord him the integrity of reality. And the more I thought about it, the more it made sense that he doubted, because doubt is essential to faith." Isn't that an interesting statement? She goes on, "We have to recognize that real faith has no easy answers. It's difficult and stubborn. It involves an ongoing struggle, a continual questioning of what we think we know, a wrestling with issues and ideas. It goes hand in hand with doubt, in a never-ending conversation with it, and sometimes in conscious defiance of it." So when I heard her words, I realized that if we don't question our faith, and one of the things I always say in class, if something Ernest Holmes says you disagree with, tell me, tell the class, because he doesn't have the last word. The last word is here, and we have to understand what we're saying and what we're meaning. So anyway, if we don't question our faith, our interpretation of it, then it can too easily become fundamentalism, I have the capital T truth, and you don't. And with this attitude, we shut out the beauty, the richness, the clarification that other religions can give us, that add to, not detract from our own faith. And by shutting out other ideas, we help lay the groundwork that externalizes in intolerance, hatred, and abuse of people who don't think like us. When I was in Florida, I remember the first Muslim postage stamp, Islam postage stamp, that came out in 2001 as part of a holiday package from the post office. I was standing in line to buy stamps when one man began a conversation with another, pointing to the pictures of the stamps on the wall. He said, "See that one? You know what that is? That's for those ragheads." And then he began a litany of hate. I didn't say anything back then. I think I probably would today. But I did take a look at the stamp, which honored the Muslim holiday El-Eid Fitr, if I'm pronouncing that right. And when I went home, I looked it up, and the holiday celebrates peace, generosity, and forgiveness. So during El-Eid Fitr, people give both food and money to the poor. They pray for peace, and they forgive anyone with whom they have fought, argued, or held a grudge. So after reading that, I took a moment to forgive the man at the post office and tried to let go of my anger. But Leslie Hazelton ends her talk, and I think these are so incredibly important. She ends her talk with these words: "Could Muhammad have so radically changed his world without such faith, without the refusal to cede to the arrogance of closed-minded certainty? I think not. After keeping company with him as a writer for the past 5 years, I can't see that he'd be anything but utterly outraged at the militant fundamentalists who claim to speak and act in his name in the Middle East and elsewhere today. He'd be appalled at the repression of half the population because of its gender. He'd be torn apart by the divisiveness of sectarianism. And he'd call out terrorism for what it is, not only criminal, but an obscene travesty of everything he believed in and struggled for. He'd say what the Quran says: anyone who takes a life takes the life of all humanity. Anyone who saves a life saves the life of all humanity. And he would commit himself fully to the hard and thorny process of making peace." I call my talk today "The Pillars of Faith," and I'm so glad that John began with a little intro of what faith is, because he says it so beautifully. Islam has 5 basic tenets, and they're called the 5 pillars of Islam. And they are, and I'm going to probably completely butcher their pronunciation, but they are Shahada, Salah, Zakat, Sa'um, and Hajj. Shahada asks Muslims to believe that there is no God but Allah and that Muhammad is a messenger. Salah are prayers that are performed 5 times a day at dawn, midday, late afternoon, sunset, and nightfall. There are set movements that go with the prayers, which include kneeling, bowing, and sitting. And by praying often, Muslims are reminded to stay close to Allah. Zakat is charity given to the poor and needy. Muhammad believed it was a necessity for every Muslim. And besides food and money, acts of kindness are considered part of zakat as well. Sa'um, or Saum, I don't know how to pronounce it, is fasting in the 9th month of the Islamic calendar called Ramadan. Muslims must abstain from food, drink, and sexual intercourse from dawn to dusk during this month. And the fast is meant to remember the needy and seek nearness to Allah. And finally, Hajj is a visit to Mecca. And all Muslims who are physically able are asked to make that journey at least once in their lifetime. Well, in Mecca, everyone wears white clothing to show equality, and all come to pay homage to Allah. So if we look even briefly at these 5 pillars, we see that these are all ways to come closer to God. And the person who practices them regularly should experience a sense of peace and love in the same way that we do when we follow our spiritual practices. You know, you and I practice zakat, giving to those in need. Our center gives 10% of our Sunday offerings to worthy organizations like the food banks, the Animal League, the Amado Youth Alliance, so many different places. And we have played a major part in this now 3rd year Warmth from the Heart Jacket Drive that was founded by our friend and neighbor, Gail Creamer. Part of our spiritual practice include meditation and prayer. You know, you and I probably, I know I do, have trouble finding even a short amount of time to meditate. Yet the Muslims pray 5 times a day, each prayer lasting as little as 10 minutes, and often much, much more. And they often travel to a mosque in order to pray with others. So what would happen? What would happen to you and me if we decided that we are going to pray 5 times a day, and seriously and with conviction? I wonder if we wouldn't feel closer to our own sacredness, if we wouldn't have a closer connection with Spirit. I wonder if we couldn't continue to feel a sense of peace and love as a residual from those prayers. And these are the true practices of the Muslim faith. And if we think of it, it's our own as well. There lived a pious man who spent most of his time in praying, fasting, and praising Allah. Almost all his waking hours were spent in meditation and devotions. He was very happy with his spiritual progress. No wicked thoughts came into his mind, and no evil temptations entered his heart. So one night he dreamt a rather disturbing dream. He saw that a shopkeeper in the town was far superior to him in spirituality, and that he must go to him to learn the basics of true spiritual life. So in the morning, the pious man went in search of the shopkeeper. He found him busy with his customers, selling goods and collecting money with a cheerful face. He found a chair in the corner of the shop and sat down and studied the shopkeeper carefully. No signs of any spiritual life at all, he said to himself. His dream could not be true. But he did see the shopkeeper disappear to pray his salah. Yet when he returned, he was all business again. The shopkeeper noticed the pious man sitting in the corner and asked what he could do for him. And the man said, "I want to ask you a question." And then he related his dream. "Well, that's very simple to explain," said the shopkeeper, "but you will have to do something for me before I answer your question." "I will do anything to become more spiritual," replied the pious man. "All right, take this saucer. There is some mercury in it. Go to the other end of the street and come back fast within half an hour. If the mercury is still on the saucer when you return, I will tell you what I know." The pious man took the saucer and started running. The mercury nearly wobbled out of the saucer. He saved it just in time and slowed down, but then he remembered he had to return within a half an hour, so he started walking at a fast pace. At long last, he returned, puffing and panting. "Here is your mercury, safe and sound," he told the shopkeeper. "Now tell me the true interpretation of my dream." The shopkeeper looked at the pious man's weary condition and asked him, "Well, friend, how many times did you remember Allah when you were going from this end of the street to the other?" "Remember Allah," explained the pious man. "I did not remember him at all. I was so worried about the mercury in the saucer." "But I do remember him all the time," said the shopkeeper. "When I am doing my business, I am also carrying mercury in a saucer. I am fair, honest, and kind to my customers. I never forget Allah in my dealings with others. I never forget to be grateful for the blessings in my life." The shopkeeper knew that it was not simply the prayers and meditation that bring us close to God. It is in our everyday practice. Like John said, of God, not in God. It's in our practice that we see God in each other, that we see it in every interaction, in each experience, and that we see that even the smallest thing is a blessing in our life. The mystical side of Islam is Sufism, and probably the most familiar Sufi mystic is Jalaluddin Rumi because of the plethora of his work that has been translated by Robert Bly. But a precursor to Rumi is Fakhruddin Raqi, and I love what he says, and John touched on it, about trying to put the unexplainable into words, trying to understand duality within the one. And he says, you are nothing when you wed the one, but when you truly become nothing, you are everything. If you are truly everything, then who are all these people? And if I'm nothing, what's all this noise about? You are the totality. Everything is you. Agreed. Then all that is other than you, what is it? Oh, indeed, I know nothing exists but you. But tell me, whence all this confusion? So if even the mystics are confused, we can cut ourselves a little slack along our own spiritual path. And if they can point us in the direction of our own spiritual unfoldment, then we need to seek them out, read their words, trust that we can come to a place where we too know the mystical meaning behind the words. Rumi tells us an eye is meant to see things. The soul is here for its own joy. A head has one use, for loving a true love. Legs to run after. Love is for vanishing into the sky. The mind for learning what men have done and tried to do. Mysteries are not to be solved. The eye goes blind when it only wants to see why. The Sufi mystic reminds us to be like the shopkeeper, to use our eyes to see all that is around us as expression of the one, to use our head for loving a true love, to love God with all our heart and our neighbor as ourselves, to use our legs to run after the beloved, to love so much that we melt into our oneness like vanishing into the sky, to use our mind to see the pathway from where we have come and where we wish to go, to realize that the soul is here for its own joy and that mysteries are not to be solved. Dr. Holmes says, every man's religion is good for him, though it may seem inadequate to others. Religion has ever been an answer to the cry of the soul for something which is real, something which may be relied upon, a resting place for which every person instinctively feels a need. I believe in every religion that exists, for it is an avenue through which people worship God. I believe in my own religion more than that of anyone else because this is the avenue through which I worship God. So I think that you and I may be part of only a few religions who embrace this kind of inclusivity. And as we weave together the beautiful concepts, stories, poetry that we find in Judaism, Christianity, Hinduism, Islam, Taoism, the indigenous and pagan traditions, with our own science of mind teaching, we cannot help but be enriched by the process. And isn't that what being on a spiritual path is all about? Thank you. Namaste.
We have a song today that we have done many times before. However, it's been a little while. This is called Come, Come, Whoever You Are, and it's based on the words of a poem by Rumi. And if you would like to stand and sing, you can. Or if you'd like to sit and enjoy, you can. Okay. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, and come, come, whoever you are. This isn't a caravan of despair. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, and come, come, whoever you are. This isn't a caravan of despair, and it doesn't matter if you've broken your vows 1,000 times before, and yet again. Come again, come, and yet again, come. Come again, come, yet again, come. Yet again, come, and yet again, come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, and come, come, whoever you are. This isn't a caravan of despair, and it doesn't matter if you've broken your vows 1,000 times before, and yet again. Come again, come, and yet again, come. That's it.
Thank you. I just love that. Okay, it's time for our offering. And if you're watching this on YouTube, there's a place to donate on the bottom of the little blurb about our talk. So I'd love for you to be a part of our spiritual family. And if you'd join us in our offering affirmation. My gift goes forth to heal, prosper, and bless all that it touches. It is evidence of my conviction that God is the source and substance of my supply. I share generously of my good, knowing that it returns to me multiplied abundantly, and so it is. John?
I am grateful, oh so grateful, for the blessings in my life. I am grateful, oh so grateful, for the blessings in disguise. I am grateful, oh so grateful, for the blessings in my life. I am grateful, oh so grateful, for the blessings in disguise. I am grateful, oh so grateful, for the blessings in my life. I am grateful, oh so grateful, for the blessings in disguise.
Thank you so much for your generosity that allows us to continue here. I know that a lot of churches have struggled through the pandemic, and we are just so blessed because even though we have snowbirds who are not here for 3 or 4 or 5 months out of the year, they send in their tithes and pledges, and that allows us to continue through the entire year. So we are so absolutely blessed to have you here, our snowbirds who are on their way back, and just in general, as Don said, this is my family. This is where my friends are. And so thank you all for everything that you do. So let's just take a moment now to close this portion out in prayer, and we do have cookies and coffee for afterwards. So I know that there is one mind. It's the mind of God. It's the mind that we use. And I know that God is known by many names, and that the Allah that Muhammad worshipped is the God that I worship. So I can speak my word and knowing that there is a response from this power and presence that allows my life to unfold in magnificent ways, that I can speak my word and there is a response when I claim that all is good and very good. I can speak my word for those who are experiencing any kind of a challenge and know with a faith of God that there is an answer that is coming forth right here and right now. We are so blessed to know this God, this Allah, this Brahma, this Tawa. We are so blessed. And so we just put all of that out into the divine law and let things unfold exactly as they should, as we say together. And so it is. Thank you very much. And now let's circle up and we're going to do our song.